Good morning. This is Deborah Matthews, Vicar of Verwood, with my thought for this week. Thinking about the local elections last week, even though they didn't actually involve us in this area, I was pondering on a different method of election which we read about in the Bible. After the Easter accounts of resurrection, we focus on readings from the book of Acts, which record what the disciples did next. And one of the first things they did was to choose another disciple to replace Judas. Jesus had himself invited each one of the 12 to be his disciples. And the number 12 was significant because it was a link to the 12 tribes of Israel in the Hebrew scriptures. In Matthew's Gospel, Jesus says to his 12 disciples, "Truly I tell you, at the renewal of all things, when the Son of Man is seated on the throne of his glory, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel." So it was important for the disciples to ensure that their number was restored to 12. Matthias's big moment comes in the discussion about who should replace Judas. Judas had betrayed Jesus and couldn't live with what he had done. Judas was certainly not the only one of the 12 apostles to let Jesus down in his time of need. But the others lived to greet Jesus at the resurrection and to face up to their mistakes. Sadly, Judas didn't believe that he could be forgiven. But the person to take over the role of one of Jesus' disciples had to be someone who knew Jesus, who together with the other disciples had accompanied Jesus throughout his ministry from his baptism to the resurrection. And this person had to have witnessed Jesus' life, death, and resurrection for himself. And 2 men were found to be able to fulfill those conditions. One of them was Joseph, called Barsabas, also known as Justus, and the other Matthias. But there was no election hype. Neither Justus nor Matthias was asked to give a campaign speech, and there was no democratic vote. The 11 disciples knew both of the candidates and may well have had their own preferences, but the choice was left in God's hands. And so the process begins with prayer. You, Lord, who know everyone's hearts, show us which one of these 2 you have chosen to take the place in this apostolic ministry, from which Judas turned away to go to his own place. After this prayer, the 11 disciples cast lots, which today could be regarded as a random process, very different from casting votes, but which was seen at the time as making space for God to make the choice. And the lot fell upon Matthias, so Matthias became the 12th apostle. Trusting in God with prayer is one of the main advantages of this method, and throughout the Bible, it was an accepted way for decisions to be made. It was also a good way of making difficult decisions and ensuring that there were no arguments afterwards about the choices made. I'm not sure that it would work today in terms of our elections, with all the hype and the speeches about how brilliant the candidates will be beforehand, followed up by smear campaigns that cause rifts and dissension, together with reminders to the electorate of unkept promises. Being chosen to speak for the people and then to witness to the truth is costly, whether for a politician today or for the saints of the past. At the time, of course, it is a great privilege and honour, but it calls for personal sacrifice. Matthias preached the gospel wherever he went, which led to his persecution and his death. And he is not mentioned again in the New Testament, although other manuscripts mention him and refer to his ministry witnessing to Jesus and spreading the gospel. So today we give thanks for Matthias and for his service to God. We also remember Justice and all those who are not chosen to serve in an upfront role, but who quietly continue to be faithful to God and to their calling and to witnessing to the gospel. And so we ask God to be present with us in the decisions that we must make, that he will help us to make the right ones, the ones which serve others rather than those which are in our own best interests. Have a good week and God bless you.